Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to completely demystify the structural mechanics of modern cloud load balancers and how they handle absolutely massive scale. Now, we're skipping the basic definitions today and just diving straight into the deep end. So if you've ever wondered how these systems manage millions of requests per second without breaking a sweat, or how they mathematically route traffic with sub-millisecond precision, well, you're definitely in the right place. Here's our agenda, and we've structured it kind of like peeling an onion. We'll start with Cloud Load Balancer fundamentals, then look at AWS, GCP, and Azure. Next up is the magic of hashing, followed by securing traffic with SSL offloading. Then we'll hit Geneve and virtual appliances, and finally wrap up with building in GKE. Before we actually start comparing the big cloud providers, we really have to ask the fundamental question of what exactly a reverse proxy is doing under the hood with your traffic. Because, it's not just a simple pipe. It's actually an incredibly complex routing engine, making these crazy split-second decisions based on the exact layer of the network it's operating in. All right, moving into Section 1, Cloud Load Balancer Fundamentals. Let's go ahead and build that baseline understanding of network layers. There's a massive difference between simply shuttling data around at lightning speed and actually reading the application headers to make smart routing choices. So at Layer 4, the transport layer, this is where your network load balancers live. They operate at the TCP and UDP level using flow hash algorithms to route connections. They actually preserve your source IP addresses and can handle millions of requests per second with ultra-low, often sub-millisecond latency. Now, jump up to Layer 7, the application layer. This is where your application load balancers sit. They're actually parsing the HTTP or HTTPS requests. They look at URL paths, host information, and headers to make highly intelligent routing decisions. Plus, they maintain connection pooling to backend targets. You basically trade a tiny bit of latency for incredibly smart content-based routing. Okay, Section 2, AWS, GCP, and Azure. Now that we've got the fundamentals down, let's see how the big three actually tackle these layers in the real world. The crucial point here is really seeing where each provider excels. AWS is intensely regional with fantastic 5 to 10 millisecond latency within its region, and it features native integration with AWS WAF for security, but it doesn't have a built-in CDN. Google Cloud Platform, though, takes a pretty different architectural approach. Its global external application load balancer is built on Google's global network infrastructure, using their Andromeda SDN stack. This gives you a single global Anycast IP, meaning traffic enters at the Google Edge location closest to the user, with latency around 5 to 15 milliseconds. Azure Front Door is also global, operating at that Layer 7 level with a built-in CDN and integrated web application firewall featuring OWASP core rule sets. Its latency sits a bit higher at 10 to 30 milliseconds. Now, 185. What's really interesting about this number is that it represents the massive amount of edge locations Azure Front Door uses to accelerate your global HTTP traffic. It uses an Anycast protocol with split TCP and HTTP acceleration. Basically, it's caching your content and routing requests across regions with automatic failover, which is super impressive. Section 3, the magic of hashing. Let's peel back another layer and look at the mathematical magic that makes Layer 4 routing so blazingly fast. This step-by-step flow hash algorithm is exactly how millions of packets belonging to the same session always perfectly route to the exact same backend server, and it does it statelessly. When a packet arrives, the load balancer first extracts the 5-tuple. That's the source IP, source port, destination IP, destination port, and protocol. Next up, it computes the hash. It just concatenates these values and passes them through a ridiculously fast hash function like CRC32. Finally, it selects the backend, using a modulo operation, literally just dividing the hash value by the number of backend servers, to find the specific backend index. This whole process takes mere nanoseconds and requires almost zero memory overhead. It's brilliant. But here's a big challenge. What happens when a backend server goes down? A simple modulo calculation would remap everything and completely break active connections. That is exactly why Google developed maglev consistent hashing. When backend servers change, Google's maglev consistent hash guarantees minimal disruption and an incredibly even load across your nodes. It breaks the key space down into a fixed number of slots. This is absolutely vital because it avoids the computational overhead of traveling clockwise around a ring and doing binary searches across virtual nodes, which is, what traditional ring hashing requires. Maglev moves full slots, ensuring the node with the most slots has no more than a 1% difference compared to the node with the least slots. All right, Section 4, Securing Traffic with SSL Offloading. Let's dive into how we can protect our networks without completely grinding our application servers to a halt. Think of it like this. It's akin to having a dedicated translator who interprets and relays messages, so the main speaker can just focus on delivering their speech. This analogy brilliantly illustrates why we use SSL offloading to remove the heavy computational burden of decryption from our main servers. SSL and its successor, TLS, ensure the security of our HTTP traffic, but encrypting and decrypting that data is incredibly CPU intensive. By moving that processing to a dedicated physical or virtual device, or even the load balancer itself, we free up our application servers to do what they do best, which is process business logic. So the crucial point here is really choosing the right type of offloading. You've got SSL termination for sheer speed, which speeds up the decryption process and simplifies certificate management, but it does leave the traffic unencrypted on your local area network. Then there's SSL bridging. If you need to identify and block potential threats hidden inside encrypted traffic, this is what you need. The load balancer decrypts the data, does a deep inspection on it, and then securely re-encrypts it before sending it to the internal network. And finally, if you're prioritizing pure, uncompromised end-to-end encryption, where the proxy never sees the data, SSL tunneling just passes it straight through. Section 5. Geneve and Virtual Appliances. Let's shift gears to a highly specialized piece of routing technology that AWS relies on heavily for security. Now, Geneve stands for Generic Network Virtualization Encapsulation, and what's really fascinating about it is how the AWS Gateway Load Balancer uses this protocol, operating on UDP port 6081, to scale firewalls horizontally without breaking the application's connection. Unlike traditional load balancing that actually changes destination IPs, Geneve is a tunneling protocol. It transparently passes traffic through to third-party virtual appliances, like intrusion detection systems or network packet brokers, for inspection, and then forwards it on to its final destination without altering the original packet data. And Genevieve is remarkably efficient. We're talking about a tiny 58-byte wrapper that securely ferries your data to an inspection appliance and back in microseconds. It takes the original packet, let's say a standard 1500 bytes, and just wraps an outer Ethernet, IP, UDP, and Geneve header right around it. That's only about a 3.9% overhead. The security appliance gets it, decapsulates that Geneve header, inspects the inner packet based on its security policies, re-encapsulates it, and sends it straight back to the load balancer. Honestly, it's just an elegant solution for centralized security inspection. Section 6, Building in GKE. For our final layer today, let's explore how these load balancing principles are specifically implemented over in Google Kubernetes Engine. Configuring internal microservices in GKE requires some serious precision. If you're building an internal pass-through network load balancer, you need GKE subsetting enabled, which is actually on by default in version 1.36 and up. And a quick aside, whatever you do, don't modify finalizer tags. GKE relies on them to distinguish between non-subsetting and subsetting load balancers. You'll also want to use the traffic distribution field set to prefer same zone. This tells GKE to prioritize routing traffic that originates from a zone to nodes and pods within that exact same zone, which just vastly improves your latency. Also, if you need observability, you can use L4LB config resources to specify exactly what percentage of packets should be sampled and logged to cloud logging. And of course, all this is built using the load balancer class spec for regional L4 deployments. Now 50. If you're using a shared IP in GKE to expand your simultaneous ports, 50 is the absolute maximum number of exposed ports you can have per IP address. GKE does allow you to share a virtual IP address amongst multiple forwarding rules, which is incredibly useful if you need to accept both UDP and TCP traffic on the very same IP. However, each forwarding rule must use a unique combination of protocols and ports, and you are strictly capped at that 50-port limit per shared IP. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want you to ask yourself, is your infrastructure merely routing traffic, or is it truly understanding it? Consider whether you're leveraging the right layer, the right hash, and the right protocols to make your cloud architecture as intelligent as it is fast. Are you just blindly throwing hardware at a problem, or are you architecting with the precision of maglev hashing and the rock-solid security of Geneve encapsulation? Remember, a load balancer is no longer just a proxy. It's the analytical brain of your network's perimeter. Make sure you're using it to its absolute full potential. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I'll see you on the next explainer.